Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. This is Ben Kinney, joined with Bob Stewart and Chad Hines. Say something.
Hello.
Hey, Ben Kinney, our authority today.
I am not your authority.
You're not.
At least it doesn't feel like it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is part 4 of the Win, Make, Give Influence and Persuasion series. We've already dove into reciprocity, scarcity, and now today we're going to dive in to the third principle, which is, Chad,
Authority.
I'm
going to say it with authority.
Yeah. That sounded
Well
really
done.
powerful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'd definitely put my shopping cart back if you talk to me that way. Ladies and gentlemen, authority is the power or right to give orders, the power or right to make decisions, to enforce obedience. It's a person or a company that has control or power in a particular area, sphere, product, idea, etc. The power of authority can be used to increase your sales, to increase your recruiting, your revenue, your business, your marketing. It can also be used against you, to manipulate you, to steal from you, to persuade you and influence you to take action, sometimes for your own best, good. Best good. I don't know if that's a great phrase, but, for your own betterment, ladies and gentlemen. Authority.
Think how often we fight authority. I mean, think how often your parents would, clearly an authority figure in any kid's life. Think how often your parents told you to do something and we absolutely did the exact opposite. Now we look back and say, I should have listened, of course. Yet sometimes we don't even respect the authority that's right in front of us.
But all through that process, Chad, you're being indoctrinated into the idea that there is authority, right? I mean, from a little tiny kid, you're made to believe you go with the authority. You listen to your teacher. You when the police
you respect the man in the police suit.
Street,
yep.
But I would beg to argue that what you're bringing up, Chad, is the idea of authority, not the influence of authority. Because although your parents were in authority, they had no authority over you if you did not listen.
That's true.
So what we're looking for when it comes to the science of persuasion and influence, we're looking to understand how can authority be used to influence or persuade somebody to take action. One of the examples in Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, was a experiment that they did in front of a bank. Now imagine, Chad, that you pull up to the bank and it's after hours, so you got to make a deposit.
Okay.
Normally, right, way back in the day, you would walk up and you would put it in a little envelope drop thing, right?
Yep.
Later on, Bob, you go in there with your ATM card and you do that, right? You go through the process, you stick it in there, you make your deposit.
Many times done that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they did this study. What would happen if they put a stranger standing in front of the drop box or the ATM, and that person was in a uniform with the appearance of authority, dressed up like a security guard or a police officer? And people would walk up and the gentleman would say, unfortunately, the ATM's out of order. I've been hired by the bank. I'll make your deposits for you. Just fill out the information and hand it over in your envelope. Right? And the people look at him. They look at his uniform, his badge. They realize they have to make the deposit. They got to leave now. There's something in the oven. They got to go. You make the decision. Do I trust this person? All he has is a uniform. Well, in the research, the vast majority of people did. Why? Because it was the appearance. That person appeared to have authority.
Sure.
So you trusted them and you were persuaded to do something. Now imagine if that person was a real criminal and they walked off with all your cash or whatever, right? You can see how that can be used against us. Then there's been many, many stories in the news of people dressing up as police officers or turning their car into a police car and pulling people over and assaulting or abusing or so on. Authority is, do you have power over somebody? Let's talk about what factors would give somebody that power. And you guys went and did some research and you came up and you figure out there's a list of 3 different things. And I'm sure there's 10 more, but we're going to talk about 3 today that give the appearance and finally the actual power of authority. What was the first one?
It's the title, right? Giving someone a title. Dr. such and such.
Dr. Bob Stewart.
Yeah, now he's official if he's Dr. Bob.
Well, here's a good one for you. Dr. Phil, right? My wife loves Dr. Phil. Not a psychologist. Okay, he has some other medical degree, right? But he's not a doctor for the things that he gets on TV and talks about. But people go on his show and my wife listens to him and she loves his takes on things, right? But he's not a real friggin' doctor. Like, he's not a psychologist anyway. Not a doctor in the things that he's, just dispensing advice on.
Sure, but we can give titles and earn titles. I mean, half the titles out there, sure, you got to go earn. You're supposed to earn a doctorate, right? I mean, there are people who probably call themselves Dr. whatever, Dr. Love, the late night DJ or something like that. But there's people who use it. But you've got doctor, you've got PhD, you've got professor, president, founder, right? When we introduce you to somebody, and I'm attempting to get some of the guests to join us, I'll say our founder and CEO of the Win, Make, Give podcast. And now all of a sudden you have an authority that comes along with the title. So if you didn't know, you actually have some authority with some people out there.
I have 0 authority, but you can see in situations where people with the title, you might tend to trust them. This is the CEO of this thing. This is the president of this thing. I've seen companies where there's 4,000 vice presidents, right? Yep. Because they want the authority to sell something or do something for the company, and they've figured out that title or that role creates authority. We're more apt to listen to the advice or make a decision, as our guy in the background says, when we walk up to the person at the Apple store who's wearing the Genius Bar polo. We're like, that guy's a genius. He works for Apple. He must know what's going on.
Yeah, he's got the title of genius that goes along with it in the situation. He also is hitting on the second point of the 3 things that we'll jump over to. Just imagine the title Duke, right? I mean, we can give titles to people that are in the military. We refer to them as sergeant, whatever it's going to be. Their title is bringing them authority again and again and again. So what title can you give yourself?
Well, I was thinking that if I ever had a kid, I'd name him Benjamin Michael so he could be the second or junior. Do you think that would help or hurt him? Little Benjamin Michael Kinney Jr. or Benjamin Michael Kinney the second?
Well, I don't know. Michael Jordan has a kid or a junior, right? And some of these guys do. That's a lot of pressure. I feel like that'd be a lot of pressure on your kid to.
Luckily for me, it would not be that much pressure for the kid. Low bar. Aim low, hit high. It's pretty successful. Chad, what is the second factor that creates authority?
The second one in there, Ben, it's clothes. So you mentioned that, the uniform that comes with it. Maybe it's a suit, right? How many times does they say dress to impress or dress for success, that we're putting on that suit and certain it's the outfit, army fatigues. I mean, you see somebody with army fatigues, you could have bought it at the surplus store, but you see somebody wearing army fatigues and you just give them the authority that comes along with they must be in the service.
Yeah, I like the word appearance better, but basically when you look at somebody, do you automatically assume that they work there? Do you automatically assume that they have authority because they're a flight attendant or because they look like a pilot or a police officer, so on? What were you thinking, Bob?
Well, my wife is the queen of going wherever we go. Let's say we go to Home Depot and we're looking to get new fixtures, lighting fixtures. She will find anybody in an orange vest, doesn't matter what department they're in either, and she'll just start asking them questions. And it's a running joke with us now, because when we get done, I'm like, did you really expect that 21-year-old kid that works in the garden department to know anything about the light fixtures? And he could have told her anything, and she would have been like, see, I told you he knew what he was. I'm like, he just made that up on the spot. But that orange vest, man, if he's got it on, she's going to that guy in the store, that gal in the store, and trying to get help.
Yeah, my first job, Ben, I worked at Sears. Now, I don't even know if they're out there anymore. I think the Sears department store is
still a
closed,
couple
has been
left.
bought by someone, or there's a store or two of it left. My first job was I sold shoes. Now, they gave us a dress code. They gave us a name badge, which gave me that appearance. And people asked me, I didn't know the first thing about a shoe. I hate footwear because I have flat feet, so it's a pain for me. Yeah, boy, I could sell shoes all day long because people thought I knew what I was talking about when I would say, well, this sneaker is much better for your child. It was the authority that came along with an appearance. Like you're saying, we're in that uniform, we're in that dress code. We just look like we're an authority.
You used to knock on some doors back in your day, Ben. Did you just go up there in like flip-flops and shorts, or did you slap a uniform on yourself?
No offense to anybody who wears flip-flops for a living.
You know, one of the tougher jobs in the world. So hats off to anybody that's really successful at selling anything door to door or being a telemarketer. It's a hard job and honorable job because you get door slammed in your face all the time and beat up and spit on and bitten by dogs and that kind of stuff. But, you know, when I was selling things door to door, I did something. It might be dodgy today. Maybe I should feel guilty for it. I'll tell you what I did is I didn't dress up like the other sales guys. They wore slacks and a nice shirt. Like, who wants to open the door for that guy? What I did is I wore blue jeans, a blue denim long sleeve shirt, and an orange vest, and I carried a metal clipboard. I looked like I was the power company, the gas company, the phone company. I looked official. Everybody opened the door. Now, when I did that, I would knock on the door. I'd take 10 steps back or 5 steps back so they could see me 100%. They saw who was there. I'd smile. I'd have my clipboard out. I'd be looking like I was checking the made-up paperwork that was on my clipboard, and they opened the door and said, "Hi, my name is Ben. I'm from XYZ." Right? And I could start the conversation. It gave me the appearance, but at the end, what that was the authority.
You have 1 second. There's a lot of studies that have been done. When you meet somebody, they make a judgment on authority from what they see in your appearance in 1 second.
Yep.
In Ben's case, that 1 second was orange vest, looks official, must be somebody I need to talk to, right? Open the door.
Open the door. You know, Bob, what are the best kind of cookies out there? And the answer, I'll just save you. No, the answer are Thin Mints. I mean, they're hands down the best cookie that's out there, especially when you keep them in the fridge for a little while or the freezer. Yet I know I won't buy those cookies when someone would come into the office and say, "Hey, my kid's selling Girl Scout cookies. Will you buy a few boxes?" To me, I need the authority. And she might be 8 years old and wearing the uniform, but when that girl shows up at my door and says, "Will you buy the cookies?" Now I'll take all the boxes that she's got.
Yeah. One of the best uniforms out there, huh?
For cookie sales.
Yeah, it didn't do much for me.
Let's go to the next one.
What's the third thing on our list that gives people authority?
You've already hinted at it, Ben, and that's the accessories, right? So you said you had a clipboard. So that's an accessory that made you look official. Maybe it's the badge, the police. I mean, think about every bad movie you see out there where someone's pretending to be a cop. What do? They flip open their wallet and they walk away, and people think they saw a badge or something. We have that accessory. Maybe it's a nice car even that comes along with it. The respect. There were studies done in the San Francisco area that people with a nice car were given different respect. People wouldn't honk as fast when the light turned green if somebody had a nice, fancy, luxury vehicle as opposed to, just the clunker that was in front of them. They're going to honk quicker at it. So you've got the accessories that might come along with your lifestyle or the role you're in.
One of the big examples in the influence book was a diploma or a certification hanging on the wall. That in itself, no difference between the person. The people were more apt to take that advice or take that action simply because they looked on the wall and there was a diploma.
I thought that was just because doctors had really low self-esteem and they wanted to just keep reminding you how smart they were. That's not why.
When was the last time you actually read them? They're probably not even real. They're just putting it on the wall because they read the book. They've got some diploma up there.
You know what's funny? When we had our first baby in Arizona, and that doctor on the wall had a diploma from the University of Tijuana. It was like some university in Mexico. Seriously,
I think that might have made me move.
And when we walked out of the office, she was like, "Did you see his diploma?" And I didn't look at it. They're just on the wall always if you're in a doctor's office. And I was like, "No, why?" And she's like, "It said University of Tijuana. Like, we're not coming back to this doctor." So in very limited cases, that might backfire. But yeah, they they deploy that accessory to
nothing negative about the University of Tijuana because we don't know anything about it.
No,
I'm sure it's a
we're not
great
knocking the
university.
university at all.
And
We haven't been there.
No.
But Tijuana is usually where you go to get your medical things done for cash.
Yes.
That's what we're referring
right,
to.
we were
right?
asking him like, do you take insurance? I'm not,
Yeah, right. You know, authority can also be given by somebody else
Yes.
to you.
Yes.
And one of the examples that we read about was a real estate office that when the person answered the phone,
Yep.
instead of saying, okay, great, I'll transfer you over to Bob, they added a simple message. Oh, I'm going to transfer you over to Bob. He has over 17 years of experience in selling properties in this area. You're really going to enjoy your experience. Or I'm going to transfer you over to Chad. Chad is the number one agent in the area that focuses on those things. You're going to love working with him. That person passes on the authority to you. Those people were so much more likely to do business with the person they were transferred to with that one simple addition. What's interesting is authority doesn't even have to be created by anybody that has authority with you. You just walk into the store and you're like, you point over to that guy. That guy's super good. You want to work with him.
All right. What a setup that would be if every car dealership, for example, if the guys all work together and the ladies, the people, the salespeople work together on the floor, somebody would walk in and they would always be passing them off, right? The first thing would be like, oh, I'm looking for, oh my gosh, Bob's the expert of our team when it comes to luxury vehicles or when it comes to family vehicles or when it comes, you would immediately create that authority with that other person instead of the uphill battle that salespeople have.
That's really fascinating. My wife and I just went into a Lexus dealership and we were getting a car worked on, but then she wanted to go look at a used car. And we had gone up to the desk and said to the lady, hey, we're here. We're interested in this used car. And there's a specific one that we're interested in. And she just basically said, okay, hold on. I'll find you somebody, right? And when we walked kind of back, Aaron said, hey, look, I don't even know if I should say this. Anyway, if the guy who comes up is really old, we don't have a bunch of time and and my wife used to be in the automotive industry, so she's like, he's going to take a while. Like, I just want somebody young that looks spry. It's going to like run around. Like, we don't have a lot of time here. And he walked up and it was an old guy. And we ended up like, we worked with him and we didn't buy the car. But had that lady said, I'm going to get you Bill. He has 30 years experience and he sells all the RX-7s or whatever, right? Like,
Yep.
When he came up, Aaron would have, I know for a fact, been like, all right, it's fine. I don't mind that he's a little bit older. If he's the guy that sells all the RX-7s around here, like, that's who I want, right?
You guys ever seen The Hustle with the 3 cups and the little ball underneath?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of times when you see that, they're moving all the balls around and they have a filler guy that comes in there that says he puts $100 down and he picks the right cup.
Yep.
And the guy wins $100. Another person walks up and they put $50 down and they win $50. And so they're all watching all these people win, right? And then the new person came up, the other 2 were staged, comes up, oh, I'm going to try that, I'm going to win $100. And they're like, oh, sorry, you lost.
Yeah.
Right?
The authority of those.
We call that a scam.
Yeah.
That the first 2 guys just set up and gave authority that the game was legitimate
Right.
in that situation. And now this neutral
It's probably
game.
a better example of social proof, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, one scam that Bob and I have done for a long time, we worked at all these
This
trade
podcast? Oh, no.
we work at all these trade shows, right? And it's either Bob with a mic talking about the product or service, or it's me with the mic talking about the product or service. What we'll do is we'll say, hey, we'll make all of our people sit down and watch it.
Yeah.
Because if people are sitting down there, other people will go sit down there,
Yeah.
right? And if you get a full room, you'll find that there's a line of people all around. Everybody wants to hear what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can create synergy and energy around that, and everybody looks at the person with the mic now as having the authority. Absolutely. And if you were really good, you'd have a couple people sitting in there as customers or non-customers saying, he's really good, isn't he? Like, he really knows his stuff, or I use this, it's really, really good, right? Bob automatically gets the authority because he has the mic on.
I think a referral is like the ultimate of that, right? That passing of authority. Somebody says, hey, Chad, like I'm thinking about buying a house. What should I do?
You've got to talk to my friend Ben.
Yeah. I mean, immediately now
expert.
Chad has put that authority to Ben. Because of my relationship with Chad, I go, if Chad said he's the authority, like that's the guy.
But what we've just shared is it doesn't even matter your relationship with me, right? If that receptionist were to say, hey, Ben's the expert in that area, it's going to help in that. We also were talking about celebrity authority figures in that regard. I mean, when it comes to, who's some of the biggest celebrities when it comes to authority to you, Bob?
Michael Jordan, right? I love the shoes. And
does Michael really know anything about sneakers?
Right. Has he made a pair of sneakers? No, but he wears them. And so for me, I'm like, if that guy's wearing those shoes and he can do that, like maybe I could do something similar to that.
That's why I eat so many cheeseburgers, because I see all these.
Because Ronald McDonald's is an
skinny guys are in there eating cheeseburgers. I'm like, if they can eat cheeseburgers and become skinny, like I can eat cheeseburgers, become skinny.
Well, that's good. I think we've gone 3 or 4 episodes without a cheeseburger reference. Ben, I want to ask you this, though. Is it possible to have authority from someone who's not a person? And what I mean by that is, we were talking about a sign. Does a stop sign have authority? You stop when you come to it. There's consequences if you don't listen to it. Does the stop sign get authority?
I don't know about a stop sign, but I know a company can. Like, here's an example. I'm a big Apple fan.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if Apple came out with something new, I'd probably trust it.
Yes.
They have authority, in my opinion, in that specific
space.
Area.
Yeah, what's
right?
that in your ear right now, Ben?
Yeah, AirPods.
Right.
You think time and time again, there's a bunch of companies that have created authority in your mind. So when they release something, you're probably going to buy it, or you're at least going to trust it. You may even recommend it, even if you haven't used it. So as we go through these 3 things these 3 factors that can create authority: title or role, how you appear, and what we're calling extras, badges, diplomas, even fancy cars, they can create authority. Let's end this discussion with, what if you're sitting back there and saying, I don't feel like I have any authority, but I still have a business to run or things that I need to sell? What could you do to build yourself up as a authority?
I'm going to whip 3 quick ones off just like this, and we can dive into it because we've talked about them already. 1, get somebody else to give you that credibility, right? Hire a receptionist. Get a friend to answer. Forward the phone to your partner and let them answer it, and just say, oh, we're going to put you in touch with such and such. 2, give yourself a title. And 3, dress for it. Put on a work uniform. Get a name badge. Whatever your role is, it'll give you the appearance right there.
That's awesome. Awesome. When I first got started in the real estate industry, I was skinny, tall, and tan, but I looked really, really young. So one of the things that I did to allow myself to have influence over people is I took my picture off of the card.
Oh, yeah, and you should see that picture, folks.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. Young, tan, and handsome is what I think, but
thanks, Bob. So what happened was I had to allow my knowledge to create my authority. So when they asked me questions, I had to know the data and the information about what was going on in the market. That helped me create authority by knowing what it sold and for what price, etc. Well, when you look at software startups, one of the things that they do to try to create authority, when you visit the website, they'll always have the banner on there, Bob. Do you know what I'm going to say?
Testimonials or used by this company or
yeah,
something
or
like that.
As written about on TechCrunch,
Yeah,
Mashable, CNN, right? And you see all these different badges of all the places that they've been mentioned or written about. Most of the time, they submitted an article to that place. That place didn't come out to them. So what can you do to create authority for yourself? Create a social presence.
Yep.
Get a bunch of followers. Create a YouTube page. Create good content, right? Write some articles, getting them submitted so you could say, we're referenced on this, this, and this. Teach a class. Create free content. Partner up with other people that have authority. It's kind of like you're stealing their Kool-Aid. You're kind of siphoning off their authority by saying, I work with Bob Stewart. Bob Stewart has a lot of authority. They'll give me authority because of Bob.
Yeah, Batman has authority. Robin doesn't. We all laugh at Robin. He's just stealing it from Batman.
Yeah, but when he shows up, everybody knows he's with Batman.
He's with Batman.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
There's a website you guys anybody could visit this, and we used to do this in the real estate industry a lot. It's called Haro, Haro. It's Help a Reporter Out. And what you can do on there is you can go in there and subscribe to certain industries or things that you may have knowledge on. So what we would do is real estate agents go in there and subscribe. And anytime a reporter across the United States, Canada, wherever, right, would say, I'm looking to write an article about the housing industry in Seattle. If you were signed up to get those requests, they go into Haro and say, I need a real estate agent in Seattle, right? And you get that request, and then you can become a source for that story, right? Yep. That's how you start to build that authority. If people, if you can say, hey, as referenced in the Seattle Times, because some Seattle Times reporter reached out to you to add a quote in about, the housing market, Haro's a really great resource for you to build authority.
Start thinking about what are some things that you could do to create authority in your industry, in your community, amongst your potential customers. Is that creating content, blogging, writing for news articles, news places, right? Submitting your content to other people, making how-to videos. I created a lot of authority in different industries, and so did both of you, by doing free webinars for people.
Yep.
Giving all the information away so that people looked up and said, I believe this person. I've learned something from that person. And then when you have something to sell, they wake up and say, oh, I already trust him because Bob's been teaching me these things for a very long time.
One of the thing I think about is, to me, authority is it almost has to come with one of those other things, right? Especially when that authority is like thrust upon you, right? Like when somebody's the authority over you at work because they're your boss, and that's literally the only reason why they have the power to persuade you, is like this kind of fear because they're the boss, right? Those situations become a little bit tenuous unless there's some other of these principles that we're talking about, and we haven't even explored them all. We've got a couple more episodes, right? But I think about things like, when we do those free calls, Ben, we are gaining authority because they're thinking like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about, but it's also reciprocity, right? We're also giving them something and getting something back. And so in that like boss relationship or at work where the authority is bestowed upon you because of your position, I think a lot of these other things need to be at play to really be persuasive or influential.
Here's the thing. We are going to allow you to become an authority right now. Simple. All you have to do is tell a friend about this amazing podcast.
This guy.
And you are now an authority, helping give us the credibility and helping them grow by learning these lessons. We hope you've subscribed so you're not missing the rest of this series. We hope we're seeing you in our Facebook group. That's facebook.com/group/win-make-give, where we're talking about this persuasion and influence conversation right now. Make sure you're joining us there for it. Make sure you keep your hands washed, wear a mask, and as always, do good.